All right. Good evening, everyone, and everyone at home. It's hard to believe this is the week before Thanksgiving, our last meeting before Thanksgiving. So anyway, please join me for the flag salute. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This meeting is being televised and recorded for the transcriptions of the minutes. At this time, speakers wishing to address the board this evening should turn in the completed speaker card to the board secretary. Trustee Barbo, any action taken in closed session?
Yes. In closed session, the Board of Trustees unanimously approved 5 yes, 0 no votes to approve the 2025-2026 Comprehensive School Safety Plans. Part 2, technical portion. This portion of the safety plan contains some confidential information that is protected from being publicly released.
Great, thank you. I need a motion to approve the agenda for tonight.
Motion to approve?
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Next, public comments. Speakers wishing to address the board on items on the agenda may complete the speaker's card and submit them to the board secretary. Speakers addressing a specific item on the agenda will have the opportunity to address the board at the time of the agenda item in the meeting. If you are addressing the board on a non-agenda item, please be aware the provisions of the Brown Act prohibit the board from acting and discussing such matters at the meeting. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes per person per topic and 3 minutes per agenda item. MEA, MEF, CSEA, members of the community? Okay, trustee communications, any comments? Anybody has anything to share?
Just wanted to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving next week. And I know it's a very special time of year, and we're always grateful for everyone that is part of our family, the Millbrae Elementary School District family. So just want to wish everybody a wonderful holiday next week.
Great, yeah. Same here, and also this year we're looking forward to the turkey trot. It's an MEF event. So typically in the past they did it individual schools, right? But now this is a new tradition for the MEF for the turkey trot. So looking forward to that. Okay, and superintendent update.
All right, let's hope the clicker works. All right, first I just want to really compliment our community because as we are aware, the government shutdown disrupted SNAP benefits. We have 151 students in our district who received SNAP benefits. And MEF and the PTAs came together just a couple of weeks ago, and they started with donating close to $19,000. And with the $19,000, we were able to purchase $100 grocery gift cards for all of our students. We put that out to students, and they also put out a call to the community, and our community came through. Pleased to report that the community raised $38,000 in less than 2 weeks. So MEF donated $10,000, the PTAs donated about $9,000. So the $38,000 does include the PTA donations, but not the $10,000 MEF. So if we kind of put that together, that's $48,000. We did have a church in Millbrae generously donate $15,000 to this cause, as well as the Millbrae Community Foundation that donated $1,500. So I'm just amazed that our community, we were able then to provide a second round of grocery gift cards to all of our students, and they have been, our school sites have been wonderful in terms of contacting parents. Some of them are coming in to pick them up. We also, we're hopeful that now that the government shutdown is over, that our families will receive their SNAP benefits and the disruption will end. But they also are looking, they have a little additional money, and they're looking at a third round of gift cards right before the holidays for our families. So it's just really impressive, and that's what's wonderful about our community. And then it is November, and so our 8th graders just came back from their sojourn trips. The fact that we had Monday and Tuesday holiday for Veterans Day worked out well, because then they only actually had to miss 3 school days. Normally they have to miss more than that. And here are just a few highlights. So that picture above is discussing representation in front of the Capitol. And then the upper right picture, we have students singing at the MLK Memorial. And then at the right, we have students writing letters to families at the Vietnam Memorial. So it's hard to choose. We have a few more pictures, but Sojourn's always a really wonderful experience for the 8th graders who attend. And I really just want to thank the staff who attended too, because not only did they give up their Monday and Tuesday holidays, but they gave up that whole weekend before to travel. They said that our students were really well behaved, and it's just a wonderful experience. Our trustee Musa already kind of mentioned this, but I want to take a moment to highlight a couple MEF events coming up. So Turkey Trot, yes, they are kind of limiting the registration, and so if people haven't registered, you may want to register soon. I just ordered my little turkey headband it will be at the Taylor Field, and that's actually on Thanksgiving Day, but it's at 8 a.m. and only a mile. So you will have plenty of time to finish the turkey trot and get home and start cooking. Well, I don't cook really, so I do some sides and desserts. It's okay. I'm very open and honest about the fact that I am not a chef. Anyway, and then we also have STEAM Fair coming up. This was originally scheduled for November, but has been pushed to December. So this is Saturday, December 6th, and that's going to be held at Spring Valley. MEF is really trying to make sure that they host different events at different school sites, and also to highlight the programs that they support. So if you think about the turkey trot, that's really highlighting the fact that they sponsor Regards at PE and the importance of wellness and being physically active. And then STEAM Fair, they support CAM EDU sessions. So we have a number of vendors. CAM is coming out. I think we have, actually I'm gonna pull out my notes because I was on an MEF meeting yesterday and I wrote down some of the other vendors, that right there. Happy Hall will help us out. Galileo, we have the Mills Robotics team, Intelligent Learning, and they are also working on securing a couple of other vendors. Nominal cost of $5 per person, although they did just reach out and having our principals send to our students who receive the SNAP benefits that they can get in for free. So they have, it's 12 to 4, but they are just kind of for crowd control, limiting it and having it 2 sessions. So you can either sign up for 12 to 2 or 2 to 4. So that's my report for this evening.
Great, thank you. Consent agenda, I need approval for.
Presentations first.
Oh, sorry, I had highlighted already. Sorry, presentation, I was trying to end this meeting quicker than.
Just skipped over it.
All right, yeah, let's just go home. Anyway, we have a presentation about our performance and progress and test scores from last year. Our Director of Education Services, Catherine Haslip, sorry. My brain is going different.
I'll give Ms. Fossil a okay?
Thank you. So most often the clicker comes with a little highlighter here, and I would typically highlight, but this evening that won't be, it's not compatible with the software reason, so just wanted to mention that, as you know, highlighting this evening. Well, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Superintendent Hickey, President Musa, Vice President Chin, trustees, CEO Paulette, Cabinet, and friends and families that are watching from home this evening. I am honored and I have the privilege of presenting the 2025 dashboard results to you this evening, along with our CASP scores. So let's go ahead and begin with our presentation outcomes. So this evening, we are decoding the dashboard. It is decodable. It is not, as most would say, the most friendly dashboard, so I will walk you through the decoding of it. It's a little complex, but we'll get there. We'll also combine some LCFF and dashboard pieces, the state and local priorities specifically. I'm going to explain some of our current CAST results, and then planned improvements. We'll conclude with what are improvements, what's our plan to address the areas on the dashboard and our CAST results. So let's go ahead and get started. I always like to start with a quote, as you know. So this is a quote from our president of the State Board of Education, Linda Darling Hammond, who on November 13, when the dashboard was published for all to consume, stated that the dashboard results are showing that California is continuing to make important strides in post-pandemic recovery, especially with re-engaging our students in the classroom, graduating students in greater numbers, and getting more of them prepared for college and careers. So without further ado, we're going to just get right into the dashboard. So it contains important information on schools, districts, and county offices. It provides parents and educators with meaningful information on school and district progress. It assists our districts and schools in identifying strengths and weaknesses and areas for improvement. And it also identifies districts and schools that need technical assistance for intensive state support and intervention due to a failure to show growth over time. So this would be referred to as differentiated assistance. Okay, we have a little video. I want to just set the context for here. We have some folks that are going to be on this video that are very excited about the dashboard. So who's going to do this for us?
Welcome to the California School Dashboard. Let the conversations begin.
How many students graduated on time at my son's high school?
Are students learning what they need to in English and math?
What's our district doing to get more parents and families engaged in real ways?
The California School Dashboard is the place you can get more information about each of these questions and more. The dashboard helps us all, parents, families, students, teachers, see how well our schools and students are doing and where improvement is needed.
I heard fewer students got suspended last year. Is that true?
What's my district doing to make sure students and teachers feel safe? Think of the dashboard as the ultimate conversation starter. The information helps us talk to each other and with teachers and school leaders about what actually is going on in our schools. It helps us think about what additional questions we want to ask and where to find those answers.
Like what programs are working well in our district?
Or what's being done to help students who are falling behind.
Or which schools need more attention?
Right. The dashboard provides information that helps us have more informed conversations that lead to better planning and better results for kids. Plus, it's an important way to hold our schools accountable, to see if they're making progress over time.
That seems like a lot to ask.
It is, but the future success of all our kids and our state depends on how well our schools are doing. It all starts with looking up your schools and learning more.
So start looking.
And let the conversations begin.
You can find more information about the California School Dashboard at www.caschool.com.
So yeah, they're very excited, you can see. So that just gives us a little context here. So let's get right into what it is. So it is the accountability and continuous improvement system that came to us in 2017. As you know, in 2013, we moved away from, well, we actually brought in LCFF, the local control funding formula. So the state of California needed an accountability system to go along with LCFF. If you recall, I do because I'm a former Title I principal and teacher, the API and the AYP system, which was merely a number, this is a drastic improvement from the one number system because it has various indicators, which I'm going to point out tonight. So I just wanted to just kind of mention a little bit of why we had to, basically bring in a new accountability system is because we shifted to LCFF. It displays performance for districts, schools, and student groups. It combines current results, which is the status, along with progress over time, which is change. And so I'm going to really highlight that this evening. It includes both state indicators and local indicators, and it uses the 5-color system. It's almost like an odometer. I think of it as like the gas gauge of the odometer in your car. So you have the highest performance being blue and the lowest performance being red. You'll also see on some dashboards a grayed out where there's actually no color. That's because it has fewer than 30 students in that subgroup. So that's why it's grayed out. Okay, so moving right along. Local indicators. These are the areas that we self-reflect, collect evidence and data on, and report to the state in our LCAP. These are basic services and conditions of learning, implementation of state academic standards, parent and family engagement, school climate, and access to a broad course of study. So together, we get together as a cabinet team, principals, and we rate ourselves on a continuum. And that's the local indicator section. State indicators, this is your CalPADS, this is your CASP data, right? So academic indicators, ELA and mathematics, suspension rate indicator, English learner indicator, and chronic absenteeism. So you'll see that on the dashboard. What we do not have on our dashboard is the graduation rate indicator, as well as college career, because we are an elementary school district. Okay, so as I mentioned, status and change, these are the two lenses that we look through when we look at the dashboard. So your status, think of lining up every single district and school from lowest to highest, and then drawing 4 lines. You've got the 5 performance areas. Very low to medium, high, very high. Again, the odometer, blue being the highest, red being the lowest. Then you have change from one year to the other, right? So we're comparing 23-24 to 24-25. You have those 5 bands. Increased significantly, increased, maintained, declined, declined significantly. Those are 5 change levels. Then you combine those two together into what they call a 5x5 grid, which I'm going to show you this evening for the different areas. So we have status, change, and then you put it all together in the 5x5 grid. Okay, so here is our Millbrae dashboard, which we are all very proud of. We met all of our indicators. Let's start with chronic absenteeism. We are in green in chronic absenteeism. Our suspension rate is in orange. English learner progress, yellow. English language arts, green, and mathematics, green. And again, we met our local indicators where you see standard met. Now, this is the 5x5 grid for language arts placement. And if I could zoom in, let me see if I can try to zoom in. I don't think can I zoom in a little bit? Yeah. Okay, I might be able to see it a little bit better. Here, whoop, oh boy. Okay. All right, so get a little bit closer, I can see a little bit better. So on the left-hand side, you have the levels, and across the top, you have the change. So it's status and then change. And within the grids, you can see which school sites in Millbrae either improved, increased significantly, increased, maintained, or declined significantly. And then you have the levels of those schools. So let's just take Meadows, for example. Meadows is at a very high performance level. However, between last year and this year, they declined. Okay, so that's why they're in that column there. Let's go over to Green Hills and Spring Valley. In language arts, they're both at a very high level. They're in the blue, and they also increased. So that is how that grid is read. And let's go on to mathematics if we can. I don't know why it's not changing for me. Maybe because I clicked something. There we go. Okay, mathematics placement. I'm not going to try to zoom in because I messed up the computer. So I'll just get closer. So again, we have, if you're just looking at Meadows, again, they're at the very high level. However, they declined from one year to the next. Then you have Spring Valley in mathematics, which is at the very high level. So that's their status. And if you're looking at the top here where it says the change, because you're combining change with status, they increased. So I just want to point out that even though you're looking, we'll get to CASP in a minute, but even though their CASP scores may have looked like they declined in math, they actually, if you're looking at the dashboard, they increased and they're still at a very high level. So the dashboard is very different than the one indicator, which is the CASP. And here's our English learner placement. Again, you know how to read the status and change. So you can look at the various schools and where they have placed here. Millbrae, as a district, is placed right there at high. However, we did decline in English learner placement. So that's going to be an area for growth for us. And then we're looking at Meadows. They increased significantly and they're at a high level. So again, with English learner, and I'll talk a little bit more about our English learners later on in the presentation, but because that group is so, it changes because we reclassify students, we're looking at different students almost every year. So it is a difficult area in which to continue to maintain the same growth rates over time. But the good news is we do have some highlights in that area. Okay, now here is a 2-year comparison. We have the 2024 dashboard performance and we have the 2025. So you can see kind of side by side here how we have maintained, which is great news. Chronic absenteeism is in the green. That's exactly where you want to be, or in the blue. Suspension rate, we have decreased in our suspension rate, meaning on the odometer, it looks like but we've actually increased the number of suspensions. So English learner progress, we have declined from blue to yellow. Again, that's an area for growth for us. English language arts, we maintained in the green, and mathematics in the green as well. And when you're at the high level, it's challenging to maintain those levels. So just want to point that out. Millbrae's doing a great job of maintaining their high status. Okay, let's take a deeper dive into the dashboard. Now I want to point out one of the most important features of the dashboard, which is the equity report. So if you look down here at the bottom, you can actually dig deeper into the subgroups for each of the indicators here. So priority area English language arts, mathematics, and English learner progress. We're going to take a deeper dive into the dashboard and we're going to look at some equity reports now. And I just want to point out, for informational purposes this year, they included the science. So we're in the green, which is a great start for us in science. So let's take a look here about what it means with the equity report on the dashboard. And I'm just going to point out a couple points here that I feel are really important. We're really identifying performance gaps when we look at the equity report. If you have two colors difference, say blue and yellow, then you have a gap. And I truly believe that our zip codes should not predict success in school for our students. So this is why when I look at the dashboard, I really am looking deep at this equity report, because this is what tells us the full story for our students. You can see that perhaps your school is in the green, but if you look deeply at the equity report, you may see that your English learners are in the red and your students with disabilities are in yellow. And even though yellow and green isn't necessarily a gap, you want to make sure you understand where your students are in all the significant subgroups within your school. And I truly believe that just one student not achieving their potential is one too many for us. So let's dig a little deeper here. This is the equity report for ELA. And we can see that we have our long-term English learners. This is the first year that they're being reported on the dashboard. And we have some work to do. They're in the red. We've already started the work. We know who these 31 students are. We've printed out their reports. We actually have a meeting scheduled to talk with our teams about what we're going to do to really identify supports that are accelerated for our long-term English learners. Our English learners, not our long-term, but our English learners as a group, and our Hispanic students are in the orange. Our socioeconomically disadvantaged are in the yellow. Filipino and two or more races, along with our white students, are in the green, and our Asian students are in the blue. So you can see the gaps. Again, 2 or more colors away from each other is a significant gap for our students. So we have some work ahead of us. Equity report for math, very similar. Our long-term English learners are in the red. We have no student groups in the orange. We have our English learners as a whole are in the yellow, along with our Hispanic, socioeconomically disadvantaged, and our students with disabilities. And our Filipino, 2 or more races, and white students are in the green, and our Asian students are in the blue. So very similar gaps here in math as well. However, I want to point out our English learners are in the yellow, which in ELA they were in orange. So, okay, on to CASP scores. That's a lot of information on the dashboard. We're going to take a look at our state indicators in ELA and math on CASP. And again, this is just a reminder, standard exceeded, standard met, standard nearly met, and standard not met. And these are the colors that are associated. And again, it's identifying strengths, areas for improvement, and instructional support for our CASP scores. And this is a comparison for 23-24 to 24-25, and ELA were pretty stable with an increase of 0.76 percentage points of students who met or exceeded on CASP in ELA. And we move to math, very similar, we're pretty stable. We maintained from 23-24 to 24-25 in math from 62.55 to 62.59. And then this is a district, state, and county comparison. So you can see that MESD continues to outperform both the state and the county. In fact, we've grown even more in terms of the longitudinal data that we're looking at here. So MESD is 66.15, San Mateo County 58.38, and the state 48.82. And that's in ELA, and then in math, 62.59, San Mateo County 51.32. That's quite a gap there. So we're really outperforming the county and the state. Okay, this is, the next 2 slides are really just drilling down a little deeper into our grade level performance levels. So you can see kind of overall how our grade levels are doing with 3rd grade all the way up to 8th grade. And I have those percentages calculated. So if you'd like, I can revisit those with you. This is ELA. And then in math, we have our grade level performances here. And then this is school site performance overview. So again, you saw the difference on the dashboard, right? Where we had indicated that Spring Valley had grown in math. And I just want to point out that if you were to just have looked at the CASP scores, you would have thought that Spring Valley was perhaps moving in a declining direction, right? However, when you look at their dashboard, it paints a different picture. It paints a picture of growth for the students in math and in ELA, and that CASP does not reflect the whole picture, right? So that's why the dashboard is so important for us to really understand and utilize as a tool for looking at how we can move our students forward. So just looking here at MESD, you notice that we've pretty much maintained in ELA and in math. Green Hills has gained in both areas, ELA and math. Lamita Park as well. Meadows, slight decline in ELA and a decline in math. Spring Valley has moved up in ELA and a slight decline in math, but again, their dashboard indicates the opposite as it increased. And then Taylor, just a slight decline in ELA and in math. And then if we look even deeper into the subgroup data for CASP, it also shows us a little bit more that we want to know about our students and how they're doing, because just looking at the overall picture of the school doesn't really tell us much, and for the district as well. So when we look at MESD, we said we're maintaining in both ELA and math. However, we have a significant subgroup that is really shown amazing growth, and that is our students with disabilities. So I just want to really commend the special education department, along with Director Dr. Passmore and her team for these amazing gains, both in ELA and in math. Our socioeconomically disadvantaged, I had initially presented these slides to Lisa, and I said, oh, look, 20, we looked at 20. I had not hit, apply selection, so I was comparing, the wrong numbers, but anyway, wishful thinking. We have some work to do in the area of socioeconomically disadvantaged, and then our English learners are pretty stable. Again, that is a group that is always in flux because we continue to reclassify students. And then just looking ahead, what are we going to do with all this data? What are the improvements that we have planned? So we have some core areas and some strategies for improvement. So I just want to take a few minutes to kind of go over this with you. So we have 4 areas that we really want to focus on moving into, the spring semester and into next year. Data-driven decision-making with EduClimber. We had a great session with EduClimber at our principal meeting. It was a 90-minute session. The entire time was dedicated to EduClimber and just learning more about that tool. The possibilities are endless, really. And there's a lot to learn when it comes to EduClimber and what it can do for us as a district. They say that it takes about 3 years to fully understand and immerse yourself in all that it can do in terms of MTSS supports. So we have some planned professional learning ahead of us. They recommend 4 sessions. So we're going to be working with our customer service representative and sort of planning that out for this year and next year. Research-based strategies and materials, so the science of reading and also the area of the science of learning, how students learn, is really going to be helpful for us as we adopt a new English, English language arts materials, and we move into sort of the professional development that's aligned to that with our new assembly bill that came out with Governor Newsom. And then, of course, just our multi-tier systems of support and our interventions with our reading specialists, and then our professional learning that we just, want to make sure we continue with our coaching models and supports and professional learning with universal design for learning and all the other areas that we're focused in on. So specifically, ELA, science of reading, math, McGraw-Hill, ELD, really want to try to look at some designated supports for designated ELD, because that's where we're really falling short. We have some integrated ELD happening within our classrooms, but the designated areas are the areas that we really need to work on for our students. Science, hands-on instructional strategies, continuing with our STEAM programs. With chronic absenteeism, and we're in the green, but we want to get into the blue, so how do we get there? We're just going to continue with our positive school culture, early intervention, home visits, family partnerships, our SAR process that we have. And then for suspensions, I think it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, because we want to follow ed code, but we want to also get to the root causes of why students, why we are in the orange on the dashboard. So we're going to be taking a deeper dive into, who the students are that are being suspended, and actually have that data for you. So let me quickly just kind of give you a little more information on that. So when it comes to the suspension dashboard, we have our Hispanic and our LTELs that are in the red, our EL, Pacific Islander, socioeconomically disadvantaged, and our white students are in the orange. You have your yellow area, your Asian students and students with disabilities, and then the blue is our Filipino and 2 or more races. So you can see the gap here. You have students that are Hispanic and LTELs are in the red on the dashboard, and then your Asian students are in the yellow. So we are suspending far more Hispanic and LTEL students than we are Asian students. Excuse me, our students with disabilities. Sorry, my mouth is really dry. And then just looking at social emotional learning curriculum, being proactive and preventative, and letting our panorama surveys sort of drive our PBIS interventions. So those are our planned improvements. And then just some closing thoughts, just about data in general and standardized tests. I just really feel that a child's worth is not in that number, or a school is not even in that number, right? So Cannot define our intelligence. I'm someone who did not test well. I can speak to that. Potential or future success. Test doesn't it just captures just a narrow slice of skills on any one day. It doesn't measure creativity, resilience, curiosity, kindness, bilingualism, leadership, or long-term potential. And learning isn't something that can be standardized, truly. Students learn at different paces and in different ways, and a uniform test can't fully represent all those differences. So although it's important to understand the data and know where our students are, I really don't feel like it captures the essence of who they are. So I just wanted to leave you that closing thought and then entertain any questions. Sorry, my mouth is so dry.
Water over there
Before you
Thank you.
get some water.
And before you kind of go to trustee comments, I just want to compliment Director Waffle because for this great presentation, but just also her leadership in where we've come in curriculum and instruction. And I think in our time working together, we have a lot more consistency across sites, and the big lift has really launched us into literacy games, and we're excited to kind of see continued improvement in that area. So
Yes, and thank you for closing with that quote, because it really makes a lot of sense. Because every kid that comes into class, they all have a story. So it's just perfect way of ending with the.
Yeah, I'll never forget my 7th grade math teacher at Bowditch Middle School, Lisa's mom's former school. Not to say I didn't have a great education in Foster City, California, but I do remember my 7th grade math teacher just saying, you're just never going to be good at math, Catherine. Let's just, we've all had that teacher, right? She just kind of left a scar in our hearts. And I was just like, okay. She probably was right, because I ended up taking physics for poets at UCLA. That's okay. I knew I wasn't going to be, Trustee Chid. I wasn't going to be finance or a math girl. But anyway, I truly believe that. And I'll just digress just a minute. Yesterday, Kathy Zavaleta and I had a great session with Susie Takeda. She's our DIBELS trainer. And Kathy was asking some really great questions. And one of the most important things that she said, and I thought it was going to be about like the data, is she said, my kids feel so deflated. They feel so deflated because they are taking this test for the second time and they feel like they still can't do it. And Kathy was more concerned about the feelings that her students were having about themselves and their self-concept than anything else. And it just really it almost, brought tears to my eye, because she just is such an amazing educator that really cares about how kids feel about their learning. And again, like I said about, my 7th grade math teacher, I felt terrible, like any comment or anything that is left on your heart like that just can leave emotional. I've gotten therapy, it's all good. So anyway, so I just wanted to say that thank you. So thank you, President Musso, for saying that, because I think it really is important, and we have to keep that in our center.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Questions, comments?
Just thank you for the water too. I feel so much better.
Yeah, excellent presentation. And the first thing I wrote down was the whole child. I'm always talking about we need to educate the whole child. And there's a lot to be said about emotional intelligence. And that's something that you really can't put a number on. I'm pleased that MESD is doing well. I mean, we're doing, there's been ups and downs and turnarounds, but slow and steady wins the race. So anyway, it's just nice to put this in a little capsule that we can kind of put all the pieces that we get together. And this is what this presentation does for me. It puts it all together into one piece. And yeah, the dashboard, not happy, but the way it's designated. But anyway, it's wonderful that you see the equity piece and that we have really isolated those areas where we need to, add some extra help. So that's really where we need to go. As long as we can identify it, we can do something about it. So thank you.
No, thank you, because I do recall this AYP and API. Any of us that have been principals back in the 2000s know that it was that constant hockey stick, and I remember my career in Milpitas, and we were just always driven by that API and AYP, that it would come out and we'd get those banners and we're like, yay, our API went up, or, oh no, it didn't, and we're afraid of that program improvement piece of the state taking over our school, or, so this is just a much better model. It does have areas for improvement, and they're working on it, the state's working on it, but it's better than that one number. And just the fact that it's showing growth from one year to the next is an improvement, and with various areas and indicators rather than just that one number. So yes.
And also just a reminder that the areas we are in red, we are required to address those, each area that we are in red in our LCAP.
And I'll be back for that presentation too. Stay tuned for more.
Anybody else?
Yeah, great. This was a great presentation. I think having, had to do similar presentations in my past, you did an excellent job really getting into explaining what this whole process is that goes into our accountability system. And just want to point out that I know our suspension rate has declined, but I think that people need to realize that we don't suspend many children. So last year being, the numbers that were suspended, just increasing them by a few that next year is going to really make that look like we're not doing a good job. But it's just because there's so few. We have many things in place where suspension is really the last discipline thing to, that we try to implement in our schools. So that's why it kind of looks different, because the numbers are so low that just a few increase makes it look like, this number's really gone wonky because the percentages of the total number. So just want to point that out so people don't start getting really worried, like all of a sudden our suspension rates, in the yellow when it wasn't there before.
Exactly.
And it's just when you really look at the numbers, there's very few to begin with. And then when you have just a few more on top of it, it just screws the number up and makes it look really bad. But yes, this is a wonderful way to account to all of our different groups, and the equity lens is wonderful to really pull out the kids that are getting hidden in that old API number, because you never quite knew who was it that gave you those numbers. So this is a much better way of really being able to pinpoint. And I really just appreciate all of the different next steps that you've presented tonight, because it looks like we really have a plan to address where those gaps are. And I think that's wonderful. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Great presentation. So comprehensive. I mean, to take a look at the student and not just a test score, but really, it's a real deep dive into educating our kids. And to have a plan that you have is fantastic. It really goes deeper than I don't think we've ever gone before with teaching our children. So I really appreciated this. Very, very good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Barbara.
Well, I wanted to thank you for your leadership. I mean, this is clearly your wheelhouse, and we've got great scores that show up across the board. And also Dr. Passmore and her gains that she made.
That's really, congratulations on that special ed.
I'm really pleased to see all of that. So that's wonderful. I do sort of, really appreciate the comments that you felt about feelings and kids feeling deflated, because that's so much a part of a mindset that helps them grow and to learn. So I don't know what we can do fully. This is not part of the dashboard, but it is something that I feel like, how do we address that, right? And then also when I think about some of the long-term English language learners or some of the socioeconomic disadvantaged kids, there's a lot going on in the world right now, right? And so to the extent that there are disruptions that they are facing, whether it be, federal policies that are making them potentially more, having more behavioral issues or having chronic absenteeism or not being able to have food security, right? All of those things I want to just kind of make sure, and I know we're doing this already, which we have just had some amazing community efforts, and I know our teachers are all over it. I just want to kind of always make sure that our community engagement and the whole district, right, is constantly keeping that top of mind, because it changes every week. It feels like there's something new, another shoe drops, and there's always constantly things changing, and we won't always be able to capture it on this page. But I just want to ensure that it's always top of our mind in terms of how we can get ahead of things. And I don't know what early trends we may be seeing for this year that may sort of be an indicator for what next year's dashboard could look like. But to the extent that we can use EduClimber or other tools, which I'm so excited about, to be able to see and get early indicators to prevent some of any slide on this dashboard in the future, I think would be great. And I know we're doing it. It's just a matter of constantly getting ahead of it and making sure we're keeping that top of mind. So, but I do appreciate everything that you've done here. I appreciate we have the tools to dig in.
Yeah, and just to speak to a couple of things that you brought up, I'll mention it with the English language learners. One of the things that just came to me, and I don't know why I didn't think about this last year, was when I was a director of Title III programs in Milpitas, one of the things that I would do is go to each of the school sites and do reclassification nights, educate our English learner families on that whole process. But I also do something called, and it was called something different. It's called CELT, California English Language Development Test, back in the day, I'm dating myself, and I would do CELT goal setting with students and the families, and I would print out the score reports just to show the parents, like, this is what this means. This is the score in speaking, listening, reading, writing, and this is the composite. And this is what they need to gain in order to be reclassified. It's one of the criteria that they pass this CELT with a level, whatever it might be, 4. And then this is the other piece of the criteria. They have to have a cohesive writing sample, and then they have to get their, star scores, and then this. So I would just go through the whole thing, but one of the most important pieces was really meeting with the kids and having them understand, making learning visible for them. Like, it shouldn't be a hidden test that they just take and they're like, what does this even mean, right? So for year to year to year, they're just taking the same test and they're not reclassifying. So they get disengaged and they just kind of go through the motions. But I thought, why not do some LPAC, goal setting here in Millbrae? So Rich Rodriguez and I have a plan. We're going to start with Taylor, and teacher Drew Evangelista, who teaches one of the sections there for our multilingual learners, is already doing something very similar. So we're going to meet with him, kind of pick his brain a little bit, and then we're going to take our show on the road. We're going to take our show on the road, and we're going to meet with our language learners at each of the school sites and do some goal setting around LPAC. We're going to show them their scores, and we're going to do some smart goals with them. So that's one of the things that we have planned to do for our English learners. And then just in terms of our socioeconomically disadvantaged students, I think you're right, getting ahead of, being proactive and really identifying, who those students are and what it is that they need, be it some family visits, home supports. We also printed out like a whole list of all of our newcomer families in Millbrae, so our family engagement coordinator, Carolina, is on top of that, and we developed a little newcomer welcome toolkit that we're emailing to our families. And so we're just trying to find different strategies and ways to reach our families. And so we have a lot planned, and probably biting off a little more than we can chew, but that's okay.
It's a big task.
Yeah,
it's a big ask, and I'm not, I'm appreciating that it is a big ask.
Yeah, but we have a lot of things planned, so try to be proactive, but thank you.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you're doing that, because, if you go to the EL students, you're gonna find out most likely at home, you don't have parents that speak the English language very well, and so they're not getting the support that they need at home. So that might be one of the factors that we might be facing with the kids. But just clarify for long-term English learners versus just English learners. There's a difference.
5+ years, the 6th year in the program qualifies them as a long-term English learner. Mm-hmm. And so what we did was we created a spreadsheet with all the data, we populated the data. Well, I didn't. Senor Rodriguez did. I gotta give credit where credit's due. He did a fabulous job, and we put the homeschool too, so that we could identify some patterns and trends. Where are we seeing most of our LTLs coming from? We have also new LTLs that came into our district too that are part of that 31 students. And so it's basically that 6th year. So they haven't moved through their ELPIs, which is the English Learner Proficiency Index that shows that they move from level 1 to 2 to 3 to 4. They haven't made that growth, and they have to be classified, so they become what's considered a long-term English learner. We really want to try to prevent that as much as possible. But I think 31 out of it, I mean, not that, like I said, one child is one child too many, but it's not too astronomical of a number that we can't attack that, and then really meet with them and create a plan for them while they're at Taylor. So
Is it 4th grade or 5th grade would be the youngest then that they might be?
right now, on our spreadsheet, it's only 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
6th, 7th, and 8th, okay.
Yeah.
So,
So by the time they take the LPAC, when they qualify for the LPAC, it's in kindergarten. And so once they take the LPAC, we get the results, then it's the 6th year from that point in time where they can.
So it's only middle school that they actually become identified.
Yeah, they become identified as an LTL in 6th grade if they are going to be. But we want to reclassify them, really as early on as possible. So whatever supports we can put in place, we are really ramping up the supports for our multilingual learner support team. So Hassan and Susan and Janetzi, we're really working with them every month, bringing them to professional learnings, showing resources, supports, doing visits with them, looking at the data, trying to make sure that we're really targeting the students that we need to target and supporting them in doing that as well. So
It's interesting too that it's 31 and you saying that 30 or less students. Is that accurate? So we're right on the cutoff that if we were at 29, then our long-term English learners may be grayed out.
maybe grade out.
And I think that even if we reclassify, it draws attention, it begins the conversation, and it helps us look at data. So, we're right on that cusp, but I think it's an opportunity for us to have the discussions and to really support our long-term English learners.
Yeah.
All right, thank
thank
you.
you so much.
Thank you.
Just one more thing. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, I forgot to.
When you were looking, talking when Trustee Jim was talking about the, looking at the dashboard and everything, and, the data drives instruction. And so for our staff to be really, really focused on regular assessments, and I know you're doing a lot of that with the, the early grades, but that is just key. And that was never my favorite part ever, the numbers piece, but it shows how you can really narrow down where you need to put your effort. So if we can give our EduClimber and Dibbles and whatever, but just make sure our staff is familiar with doing these and giving them the support so that they can do this, especially kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade. You have to do these assessments almost one-on-one.
Yes.
And so to give them the support where they can pull kids and do these assessments is crucial. So data is everything.
Yeah, it is. And
I
on
don't hate it, it's everything.
It is, and on the call with Susie yesterday and Kathy Zavaleta, she drove that point home. She's like, I know that, a lot of teachers lament the fact that there's so much assessment, but truly the intention is not the assessment, it's the information that you're getting and what are you doing with that information? Because without that information, you're just kind of shooting in the dark. I mean, you can't target anything, right? And so it's not assessment for assessment purposes. We just want, but to tell a quick little story, Claudia Peraldi, our Meadows, she was doing her Dibbles and she had a sub and we thought, that was going to be helpful, right? But she was literally in the hallway doing the Dibbles and she could hear stuff happening in the classroom. She's like, next time I just want to do my Dibbles in the classroom. I don't want to be out in the hallway because I can't control what's going on in my classroom. I kept hearing all this stuff happening. But so, you think you're helping by providing subs, but teachers are so adept at doing their assessments and then having activities that are, quiet and so forth. So, but thank you for that. That is coming from a kindergarten teacher herself, right? Assessment is, it's important.
And I think to that point though, it's not just collecting the data. Right?
Yes,
Because
what are you doing with it?
Right, it's how the information, taking the time every month or every quarter, whatever it is, to look at the data and then actually alter and make changes. Because I feel like a lot of times the staff must feel like, we collect all this data, but if you don't have the time to absorb it and actually do something with it, then you've just collected data. And it is just assessment for assessment's sake. right?
Yes,
Um,
yes,
So-
we gotta change our instruction based on that data.
Yes, and having those tools telling us without us having to do so much work as staff to find it. right?
Yes, exactly. So yes, but thank you for the opportunity to present everything tonight. Thank you for listening.
you. Okay, now we can go back to consent agenda. I need a motion for approval.
Motion to approve consent agenda?
Yes.
Second,
I have a question. On the music for minors, can you just explain a little bit more about this contract and how we're using Prop 28 money? I know that we had already a contract with Music for Minors, so can you just explain what's?
So our Music for Minors contract originally was our TK through third grade. So all of our Music for Minors, our music instruction in the third grades is delivered by Music for Minors. We had originally posted for 2 music teachers. Despite posting it, we had difficulty hiring a second music teacher. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that every school in the state of California received this Prop 28 money. So they were not ready for the demand of additional art and music teachers. So we do have a 4th and 5th grade teacher for music. Unfortunately, due to some health issues, some of the attendance hasn't been wonderful in the past year or so. And so because there is an influx of Prop 28, they're looking at just kind of bringing on 18 additional sessions for the 4th and 5th grade because they haven't received as many sessions. And, part of the reason Prop 28, the first year that it came into existence, some districts spent it early on before getting it. We did not. We didn't actually receive the money until either May or June. And so there's a decent amount of carryover from that first year that they have just decided that they are going to kind of move forward and get some additional sessions for the 4th.
Okay, and because it's additional, it counts as Prop 28, because I do know
Correct.
that there is some.
Yes, there is something where you can't, you need to supplement and not supplant. So anything additional, and then that includes, just an increased number of sessions can count for Prop 28. So, it should be more direct service to students. You can spend, what is our percentage split for Prop 28 that we can spend on staffing versus 17?
20%.
So yes, 80% on staffing and 20%
Right.
on
Materials.
materials.
And we have submitted a waiver 2 times that was approved. We haven't received the waiver for this year yet. So, we submitted it, but we haven't received it. We did find that last year, they still approved it. We did have to, the state is requiring that we give more documentation. So for example, last year, they came back to us and asked for additional information to show that we posted for the music teacher. Contracted services, unfortunately, right now doesn't count. I wish it did because I view it as, it's still services to students. It's just that we're not paying them direct from payroll. But we had to kind of show that we had posted it and give information about when we tried to interview, they did approve it. So it's kind of unknown to see if those waivers will continue to be accepted.
Okay, great, thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. District business, we have the approval of the 25-26 comprehensive school safety plan. That would be.
Yeah, I'll just take this item, and we were asking for you to approve the school safety plans. Normally, they need to be approved annually by March 1st. In general, we have looked at the cycles of not just our safety plan, but our SIPSAs, things like that. And, it doesn't really make the most sense to approve something in late spring for the school year. And so we're trying to inch them up a little. We do need a little time to prepare them. So we are bringing these safety plans to you tonight. They are from this year. Not a huge amount of change from last year. We did need to create an instructional continuity plan. We hope we never have to go back to days where, we had to be remote instruction during COVID. But if there's ever a disaster, that's something new where we have to we had to discuss a plan that if we ever have to shut down for a reason, how do we keep instruction? So yes, we are asking you to just approve these plans for all 5 sites tonight.
This is an action item. I need a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion carries. Okay. Possible future agenda item, board reorganization. As you, gosh, the year is over, and next, as the counties asked us that we have to put this on the agenda, December 16th, we'll do our reorganizations of our board, and we'll have a new president. So we just
Yeah, we just need to
We need to
announce
announce
that we only have one meeting in December. It is the 16th at City Chambers, and that will be a reorganization.
Anything else you'd like to add on future agenda item? Okay, thank you. All right, great meeting, short, meetings adjourned.
Yes.